Hey, welcome to Lincoln MKS Garage. Today I'm going to be installing a drain plug in my power transfer unit on my 2013 Lincoln MKS. Hopefully I don't mess it up. Alright, we have it up, jacked up now. Got plenty of clearance underneath to get some work in. I will admit, I don't really like using jack stands, but you have to do what you've got to do. And no, these are not the ones that were recalled. That just makes me feel so much more confident. Anyway, let's get under this bad boy and get to work. So first, we're going to have to tackle these bolts to take this down pipe out. And we're going to be using a torch and some WD-40 and Blaster Master, anything to break the bolts loose, basically. So I've got my big shot of plaster, and just use it right here. Give it a good soaking, and we'll let that set for a moment before I break out the torch. Now that we've let it soak for a bit, let's attack it with a torch a little. Then let's get the impact gun, see what we can get done here. Taking a shot at this. Will it budge? I've had it soaking overnight. Oh, hey. I've had it soaking overnight and it looks like it might have done some. Let's see here. Look at that. I finally did it. Got that bad boy out. I can see the oil has penetrated about halfway down the rust, so literally soaking it overnight, that really made a big difference. We'll just look at the rest of these and see how fast we can get them out, but this worked. Pretty happy about that. There's number 2. Not that hard after you put in enough PB Blaster. So I was looking at this earlier today, actually, and it occurred to me that I may have been able to do all the drilling that I needed to do without detaching this back pipe. Now we've already done that, so we're going to leave it be. But if we just detach these 2 bolts here, I believe we have much better access to where we need to drill. So we're going to go ahead and take this off now. Go. oil's knocked out. And let's attach this. Drop this on down. And now, come on over here. You see that whole area is exposed. And we'll just drill here. Here we have the various pieces that we're going to be using to make these holes. We've got the 1/8 bit. We're going to step up to this one, and then this one, and this one. We're going to drill the hole 4 different times before we step up to the tap kit. And ultimately this is the final drill, along with the bit we'll be using here, this bit that we'll be using to bore the hole that we'll be putting this plug in. You see it has a magnet at the end to capture stray metal particles. So that's the setup. The fluid we'll be running through, at least for the first changes, we'll be running some ATF fluid, a few ounces, couple ounces I believe, and then we'll move to this to fill it up the rest of the way. And this tap will be used with this in order to hand tap it. And I don't want to use the power drill because you don't want to lose control. Alright, victory has been achieved. You can see a little bit of fluid dripping out. It really does not look like much, but we're going to let all that drain out, and we will then move towards another larger drill. We're going to drill 4 times before we decide to tap. So we're going to use the drills I showed you, drill bits I showed you, and we're going to drill this hole 4 times, gradually largening it. We don't want to put too much stress on the aluminum or any of that stuff, so we're going to go slow and smooth and make sure to there's not much fluid dripping out of this. I wonder how bad my PTU is. That's not good. I don't like that. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. A little bit more fluid coming out. All right. There's some more drainage. I guess just some pressure needs to be relieved in there. So possibly there's more fluid in there than I thought there was, thankfully. What that might also mean is that my vent tube is clogged. Also, I'm not completely sure I'm going as slow as I should be, but you know what to do. Alright, we're gonna go nice and slow. More fluid draining out, so yeah, I bet that vent plug is really clogged up top. I'll bet you it's clogged pretty bad. And now it's time to get the hand down. So this T doesn't grip as firmly as I'd like, but I tightened it up with a screwdriver. I mean, with a pair of vice grips, and we'll see if it gets us through the job, which is the really important part here. You notice the leading gear well is keeping a nice greased grip for this cap. You need to apply pressure in the beginning and then allow it to start pulling its way through, and then back it out just to clear it of shavings. Yeah, it didn't tighten as well as I like by hand, but using the vice grips, it's tightened pretty well. Yeah, and we're going to test the plug at this point. We want to make sure that we leave a few threads loose on the plug so that the plug goes in there and it has plenty of room for a seal and whatnot. So let's get the plug. Definitely want to clear a little more space in there. Good. A little bit more. Yeah, that's probably enough, I think. That's good enough. It's got a nice snug fit. It's not moving around, and again, this has no pressure on it. So, but you're gonna want to make sure it doesn't come out, and you're gonna make sure oil doesn't leak, gear oil doesn't leak around it. So we're gonna want to go ahead and do something about that. Probably. I don't know about plumber's tape, but probably some high temp tape or some RTV sealant or something like that. You don't want to permanently set it, but you do want to make sure it doesn't leak and that it doesn't want to back itself out. All right, so here we're looking at the engine from behind the rear, the subframe. The front subframe, and we're going to be going in here, and I want to show you, if I can, the vent that you're going to be replacing. Let's see here. This is a bit of a tight space, but you're going to be replacing Alright, so you see this hose. This is the hose that you're going to be replacing. You're just going to pull it off of the top of this, and you're going to be replacing it with this fuel line. This main hose here, this black one that says AEM, this is your vent hose for the PTU. And you can see that ours ends right up this way. I don't know if I can actually get a picture of where it ends, but this is what we're going to be running up into the engine compartment for easier filling access. Here's 2.5 feet of rubber fuel line. This is a 1/4 inch fuel line. We'll be running that fuel line from right about here down to the top of the PTU. It'll definitely be a bit of a job. Mostly it's about finding a good route for it, because the job itself won't be that hard. Now, this is the hose that you pull off that PTU. It's short and it's shaped. And in the end of that hose is this cap. Now, I've installed this fuel line, which will take the place of that hose and comes up much further, making filling much easier. And this cap fits right into the end of that hose. I will tell you though, it's a beast to get off. This isn't a filter, as far as I can tell. It doesn't have a way to vent air from it. So I don't know why this is called a vent hose, but it is. So pulling this one off wasn't that hard. It wasn't very easy, but it wasn't super hard. And sliding this one down into and onto that nipple on the PTU wasn't hard either. You are going to have to go off feel because you're not going to see it. I went in through the rear of the front subframe, and it made this whole process kind of easier. I did have to remove the exhaust, or have the exhaust debolted from both sides for this. Well, this will go in the end of this hose after I'm done flushing the PTU and filling it. So I picked this funnel up from Advanced Auto Parts. It was maybe $4, and if you look at this tube, that fuel line fits directly in the end of that, and it just makes this whole filling process will be a lot easier. I'm going to get to filling this. I'm going to run some brake clean down through here first, and then I'm going to do a couple of flushes with some ATF.
One thing you can see here is that this stream coming out of here is much more fluid. The first time we tried draining this when we first drilled the hole, the fluid wasn't coming out. You can definitely tell that it wasn't getting the air it needed in order to do that. So now we've got that vent pulled, and this just drains much easier now. So yeah.
Now, one thing that's kind of cool about this funnel that I bought from Advance is that it's got a measurement. It has measurement markings on it, and so what we can do, we're going to need 16 ounces of fluid, but we're going to mix 2 ounces of ATF along with 14 ounces of gear oil. So this allows us to make that mix. I will just pour till right about here with the gear oil, and then fill up to 16 ounces with the ATF, and then let it all drain in. You can also close the drain down here so that it won't start draining. That way you can do your mix in piece. And there you go, a little concoction. Now we'll open the drain and let this begin to flow in. It's going to take a while, so have some patience. All right, so we have her zipped up, out of the way, ready for access. All right, let's set her down. Well, we finished that job. We've got her back on the road. PTU full of clean gear oil, and I'll look at it again when I do my next oil change. What could I have done better? Well, I didn't need to remove the rear downpipe to drill this hole, but removing that rear downpipe enabled me to get to the vent hose a lot easier. I'd also like to put some sort of reservoir in the engine bay right next to the brake booster. be able to cut down the length of the fuel line that I used to replace that vent hose. I also need to figure out a way to get the air out of the PTU when I'm filling it with fluid. So those are some challenges I'm going to be facing. But overall, I'm happy with it. I'm a shade sapling mechanic, not a shade tree mechanic. But together, we'll learn how to take care of our Cadillacs and our Lincolns. I'll see you in the next video.